So let's begin with UFC 159, and it's an easy one to begin with, and this is the title match, and this is Jon Jones versus Chael Sonnen, and the reason it's happening is because both of them were coaches. There's no other good reason for it to happen, because whilst Chael Sonnen is better than you would think, based on his smack, he's also nowhere near as good as what his smack would implicate, if that makes sense. He isn't just a talker. He's actually a very good fighter, but only at his level of competition, not at championship level, as was proved with Anderson Silva, and as will be proved with Jon Jones this next weekend. I expect Jon Jones to finish him, I really do. But it was sort of kind of entertaining anyway. This match is Stephen Seiler, who you might remember is a tougher, and Kurt Hollowbaugh. Kurt Hollowbaugh is a Strikeforce import. A Strikeforce import who has only fought once and lost. Okay, he's within the weight limits that the UFC are trying to expand, but really, it just goes to prove my point that they shouldn't be automatically including everybody from Strikeforce. Mind you, maybe this bout will prove that. His record is 9-1, and he is a ground fighter, although, let's be honest and say that when he finished people on the ground, it was, way back towards the start of his career. Stephen Seiler, on the other hand, is 21-10. He is also a groundsman, so I expect this to be a ground war, and I expect it to be reasonably interesting, but I still think that Stephen Seiler will probably get a bar submission in the first. James Head is 9-3, Nick Catone is only 9-4. They're fighting each other. James Head coming off one loss. Nick Catone is coming off 2 losses, but they are slightly higher calibers. I think he should redeem himself here. However, I don't know what is going to be involved in this fight from the records of what they actually where their competencies lie. So I'm going to err on the safe side and go for a Nick Catone decision. Now the next fight, the next bout is quite interesting. What Leonard Garcia is doing fighting Cody McKenzie, I have no idea. Their records, believe it or not, are not too dissimilar. 13-3 for Cody McKenzie, 19-10 for Leonard Garcia. However, Leonard Garcia in his career has managed to face extremely high calibers. Cody McKenzie, not so much. He is a tougher, and he generally tends to win by guillotine. In fact, most of those 13 wins are by guillotine. If Leonard Garcia doesn't manage to avoid the guillotine in this match, then he deserves to lose, because he should be under no illusion as to what Cody McKenzie is going to try and do. So simply do not put yourself at all costs into a situation where you might end up in a guillotine. Just don't do it, and you should get a decision victory, even if you don't do anything else in the entire match. So I'm going to say, I'm going to give Cody McKenzie the benefit of the doubt, and I'm going to say, okay, he'll just he'll ride it out to the decision. But I'm going to say that I think that Leonard Garcia will avoid the never-ending attacks of the guillotine and come out with a decision victory. Right, Yancy Medeiros is a Strikeforce fighter, or was a Strikeforce fighter. He has a perfect record of 9, and he did well in Strikeforce, but it was against, well, I don't know, probably low calibers. Rustam Khabilov, you might remember, he's fought once in the UFC, but he is on a 4-fight win streak. He generally tends to be decision king, and he is against somebody who is a striker. and that means that if the striker can't manage to finish him, he will probably get that decision. He's only lost one. His record 15-1. That one loss was by decision, so he's never been knocked out. I think that Rustam Khabilov is probably going to win this one, and I think he's probably going to win it by decision. This match is going to be reasonably difficult to call. This is Gian Villante, who has a record of 10-3. Is a Strikeforce fighter and who's arrived in the UFC, and Ovince St. Preux, who is also a Strikeforce fighter and he's coming into the UFC. Now, we'll tackle Ovince first. He does have a recent record win-loss-win, but that loss was to somebody, Gegard Mousasi, who is up there in terms of calibre. Looking back at his record, he also has several others that are reasonably high calibers as well, mainly during his time in Strikeforce, where he only lost one, and he had a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, if you count going way back, wins. So, let's have a look at Gian Villante. Okay, he's a striker, and the problem with him is that he loses as well as wins by that method. He is on a 3-fight win streak, but he seems to lose against calibers. I think this one, do you know, I think Ovince St. Preux might win this one. This is not an easy one to call, but Ovince is also stand-up in terms of his area of strength. Do you know, I think this could be a TKO. I'm going to go for Ovince St. Preux by TKO in the second, but I could be wrong there. That could be reversed, or they might cancel each other out and it might go all the way to decision. Body is lamb to the slaughter in this match. It's going to be Johnny Bedford. He has a record of 19-9. He's fighting Eric Perez, who at first glance looks like he hasn't got a better record, 13-4. The difference between the two is that out of the 9 that Johnny Bedford has lost, 8 of those are by submission. Okay? Now, I have to admit that those submissions are dotted throughout his past. They don't form a general, all at one time or anything like that. But Eric Perez has a speciality, and it might not come as a surprise to you that speciality is submissions. 7 out of his 13. He has been submitted, but only once, and by the looks of it, it was by some nobody a while ago. So, bearing in mind also that Eric Perez has probably faced better calibers by the looks here, I think I'm going to go for a choke submission in the third by Eric Perez. Okay, so I'm going to be brutally honest here. I'm looking at Pat Healy, and he has a record of 29-16. He's what we call getting onto a journeyman. He's got an extremely long record in terms of wins and quite a long record in terms of losses as well, which means he's fought a lot. He is on a 6 fight win streak, and he's just coming over from Strikeforce. His last loss was in 2010, and it was to Josh Thompson, who is, a caliber. Now, he lost in that particular instance by submission, which is a strength of his. 15 out of his 29 victories are by submission. Unfortunately for him, he also loses a substantial amount of time by submission as well. Now, he's fighting Jim Miller, who is a submission specialist. He has 22 wins and only 4 losses, and he he 12 of those wins out of the 22 is submission victories. He has been submitted as well, and he was submitted by Nathan Diaz, but that was thought to be a "ooh, wow" moment, which unfortunately for him has made his recent record win-loss, win-loss-win, so a little bit more dicey. I think he'll be able to get back on more than one win in a row here. I'm going to go for a choke submission in the third, but this could be an interesting ground war. In my opinion, we may not have seen the prime yet of Vinny Magalhães, and we should possibly not go too much on his first streak in the UFC following his time on Tough. His record is 10-5, and he's facing Phil Davis, 10-1, who lost to a previous champion, I believe, and has since had a no contest as well. When you look at these originally, you think, oh, Phil Davis, yes, no problem. But I actually think that Vinny Magalhães will win this one. He's just beaten Igor Pokrajic, and he is on a 6-fight win streak, which, 5 fights brought him back to the UFC. I don't think people will be disappointed. I think we're looking at a bar submission in the second here by Vinny. This could be, of course, my bum prediction of the night, but we will see whether I'm proved right or not. Jake Congo and Roy Nelson have almost the same record. They're both 18-7, although Congo happens to have 2 draws. They're both stand-up strikers, and it has to be said that Jake Congo does reasonably well until he's faced with a high caliber person. Then he doesn't do so well. I don't know whether you count Roy Nelson as a high caliber person or not. He is he doesn't look like he should have the record that he has, or that he should have been able to beat the people he has if you see a photograph of him. I'm hopeful here that Jake Congo will win, but I'm going to say decision because I am not at all certain that he can dispatch Roy Nelson, and I do think that there's a serious threat that he will become another of the conquests of Roy Nelson that should never have happened, really, but does. So I'm going to go for Jake Congo, but this is the dangerous, this is the out on a limb prediction of this card. Now, this is going to be this fight to me depends on what cards Alan Belcher plays, and he might be better to try for a submission when it comes to Michael Bisping. Although I have to say, Michael Bisping might try to stand, and he might try to win on points. And whilst I don't think he's going to get a TKO victory over Alan Belcher, the worry is that he would get a decision if he tries that method. Alan Belcher, again, I don't know if he can dispatch Michael Bisping on the feet, but on the ground I wouldn't be so sure, based upon his fights, in the last couple. I think if I was him, I would go for that method, and then I think he might find himself, victorious. To me, this is either an Alan Belcher, bar submission in the second, or it's a Michael Bisping decision victory. I don't know which is more likely, to be honest. So I'm going to go for the one that I hope. And despite being British, I can't stand Michael Bisping at all. And so I choose to go for Alan Belcher instead.